Hi, this is Devin Davey, and I'm a former flight attendant of 8 years. People ask me all the time, what are your grossest or craziest stories on flight? I've got a couple of them I'll share with you right now. I would say if I had to narrow down the top four, these are probably them. I've had one story. I've had as far as emotional support animals on flight, I've had a woman bring her pet pig on board without a leash, of course. She brought the pig on in her arms, and of course during the flight she let it down by her feet, and of course you know what happened. It started walking down the aisle and going between the aisles and getting in people's feet and everything. So that was interesting. Number two, um, the craziest stuff I've had. I've seen the Mile High Club. They did not even go back to the lavatory. They did it right there in the seat. I was doing the beverage service. When I got to the row, I looked over to my left and I saw a couple there. They were she was pleasuring them with her hand and under a blanket, and the blanket was going up and down. Obviously, I just looked at them and said, "Really?" And they didn't even stop. They just were smiling and had a good old time and kept doing what they were doing. So there was that. Number three, I had an Elvis impersonator on my flight one time. He was had the '70s Elvis, had the sideburns, and he came on board and. I looked at him and I said, "Don't be cruel." And then he laughed and looked at me and he said, "That's right, son." So that was kind of funny. I've had someone light up in flight in his seat. Again, didn't even go back to the lab. He was smoking an e-cigarette. As you probably know, smoking's been banned for over 20 years on all flights. Um, he got into it with me because he claimed because it was an e-cigarette, he thought it was allowed. And I kept telling him, no, smoking is not permitted, period. So he did put it out eventually, at least. But the craziest story, I've had people clip their toenails in their seat and, of course, leave the clippings on the ground. The craziest thing I've seen, most disgusting thing I've ever seen, and I have yet to this day hear anyone who has any flights in who had a more disgusting story than something that happened to me one time. I was up in the beverage or up in the galley after doing the beverage service, tidying up the galley, restocking my cart, blah blah blah, and a guy came up and he was bleeding, and he had his arms were dirty, and I was like, "What in the hell is going on here?" And he goes, "I need your help." I'm like, "Okay," and then I of course started asking questions, like, "Why are you bleeding?" In my mind, I'm like, "We have not been in any turbulence. Why are your arms bleeding? This makes no sense to me." And he said, "Well, it all started off like this." Well, folks, whenever someone starts off with it all started off like this, you're in for a humdinger, and this certainly was. He said, "I was in the lavatory doing number one, and I had my cell phone in my chest pocket up here, and as I was leaning over doing my business, he said, my cell phone fell out of my chest pocket here and landed in the lavatory. But if you've flown before, folks, you know the lavatory, it has two levels. It has the toilet bowl itself, where the blue juice comes down and flushes all the stuff down there. But oh no, the cell phone did not stop at level one. Okay, folks. There's a metal flap down there, folks. If you've flown, you know what I'm talking about, where the waste goes down past that metal flap into the latrine. That is where the cell phone went down into. I think you see where I'm going with this. Where I'm going with this story. This guy reached down, not just into the bowl, but past the metal flap into the latrine of what, to retrieve his cell phone. True story. I am not making this up. The reason why his arms were bleeding because that metal flap, when he reached down into what, all the crap, the metal blade, the metal flap cut his arms in the process. So when by the way, he did get his phone. He did get it. I will give him credit for that. When he pulled it back out, his arms were bleeding, and of course he had shit all over his arms, of course. And so when he came up to me, he had bleeding shit arms, literally. So after he explained this to me, and I was just my mouth just opened. I just could not believe what this guy was telling me. I, of course, had to break into the first aid kit. Of course, I double latex gloved in this case. And first, I had to clean the shit off his arms, and then, of course, tend to his wounds as a result. This is what they pay flight attendants so much money to deal with on a daily basis. I'm kidding, of course. Flight attendants don't make any money. Anyway, that was the most disgusting story I've ever had on one of my flights. The man who reached down into a latrine to retrieve his phone. Anyway, if you have any more stories, please share them with me. I would love to hear. I was a flight attendant for 8 years. Six of those 8 years with one particular airline, Air Wisconsin, U.S. Airways Express, which doesn't even exist anymore. But anyway, I had a great time in those 6 years. It was a wild time. But anyway, my name is Devin Davey. Have a good day, folks. And that's those are my crazy stories as a flight attendant. All right. Have a good day, folks. Bye bye.